the legalization of marijuana, talking about Curtis Richardson. Curtis Richardson is not for legalizing marijuana. He thinks that black people should be arrested and thrown in jail for marijuana, which is very boring and like very like lame and cringe. And like, I don't know how you can be in 2024 as a man that has like lived through the crack pit, like the crack epidemic of the 80s and stuff like that, and is like this, like, I don't know, so clutching your pearls over weed. There's a lot more crazy things that people can get their hands on. And again, if we're talking about how arresting and throwing people in jail for weed is such a detriment to people, and especially black people, especially poor people, like I feel ashamed having a city commissioner that feels that way. Especially a black city commissioner, that has been a leader in this community for decades.
I think I would love to talk to Curtis about that. I want to hear more about why he's opposed. And then I think to be fair, he feels that it's not an issue he decides on at the local level. But then it is. But then we look at the local issues where people disagree with Curtis again, or where the people who I represent disagree with Curtis, and particularly affordable housing and his position on growth and the pro growth ideology that we see coming out of here. And they say that I saw the attack ads on Dot saying that she's anti-growth, and I think what I got from Dot is she's for smart growth. It's that you don't just like grow in certain sectors of your community and leave the rest of the people behind. Mm-hmm. You have to do it in a responsible way that improves your infrastructure, that prevents like unnecessary sprawl, right? Mm-hmm. So that you could grow in a way that where you remain resilient and that it's sustainable and that it's equitable. So when we talk about, I don't want to get in trouble with Governor DeSantis for using the E word or whatever, but equity. But you get it, right? Like, we have this whole movement in Florida that is anti-equity, anti-diversity, anti-inclusion, and that's what I see on the other side of this of Dot's philosophy of growth, where you hear her talk about it. She's talking about equitable development. We have the other side that is like, no, we want concentrated development in the hands of our wealthiest citizens all the time. They'll just keep building in student housing complexes and making all the money while the rest of you suffer. Ha ha ha.
And this is what confuses me. And this is my problem when we talk about housing, growth, etc. Is that these folks, these developers, they think it's nice when a student housing apartment is built upwards and, they put the shops and stuff at the bottom, etc. But then when it comes to everyone else, that's like, nah, everybody needs to have a 3-bedroom house in the middle of, Killarn or wherever, all the way out there in Ox Bottom, etc. And, folks are like 80 feet apart or whatever. I'm not good with distance, but, but it's like, what is the cognitive dissonance, I guess, between those two things is what really burns me up, because what people are asking for is for, stuff like some of these student apartments where, again, it's not just for students, first of all, but two, it has other stuff at the bottom. Wasn't that what Orange Avenue was promised and then they didn't get it, Curtis Richardson?
Yeah.
And then y'all displaced them, gave them vouchers, and then they couldn't even use them vouchers around the town.
Yeah, that got settled in a lawsuit.
We had to go to court over it again. Wasting more money on stuff when you could have just done it right the first time. Y'all already believe in this philosophy because look at all of the student apartments around here with the shops at the bottom and built upwards. Again, but then with everybody else, it's like, no, y'all need to give me $300,000 for this house, or be homeless. And I put this on Facebook where I'm like, I am a 26-year-old single woman, no kids, and I do not want a 3-4 bedroom house in Ox Bottom. That's not going to do anything for me. It's just going to be a bunch of empty rooms. I'm going to use maybe 2 rooms. Maybe I make 1 into an office and then my bedroom or whatever.
You might. How do you know that?
What do you mean? How do I know what?
You might have roommates. You might, I don't know, like you could afford a house.
There's nothing wrong with having roommates. But
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I was just about to say. But the point is like, I don't want all of that house. Like, I want something small. Like, what I am in, what they call the middle, maybe a transitionary period of my life where, you know, eventually I'll be to a point where I'm like Bruce with 4 kids and a wife, or, you know, a partner. And
Hell, that's my wife.
well, I mean, but I'm not gay, but okay.
Okay. I don't know.
Point is that people like me don't want that much space, and there's not a lot of middle ground in Leon County for people to live. And that is exactly what we're missing and why we're having such an issue. There are people around here that are packed in a house of like 3, 4, 5+ people to a house because, you know, there's no middle ground for people to have maybe their own space or even just have like one roommate.
So let me say, I don't want to blame Curtis and the conservatives on the commissions here in Tallahassee for the increase in housing prices, right? But what they are doing a poor job of is adjusting our economic policy here in Tallahassee so that we can assist our people as we see like our housing market going haywire. And if we don't make those adjustments, what we're going to start to see is it's going to increase poverty, and then that'll put us back into this situation where we're having, you know, we know poverty leads to crime. And then when we talk about hiring more and more police officers to address a crime issue that's being caused by other issues that are contributing to poverty and instability in our family situations here in Tallahassee.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think Curtis is a prime example. He doesn't seem to be in touch with what's going on in middle Tallahassee.
Right. I mean, he has his house on the south side that he's had, and you cannot go a day without hearing about that. And I'm so happy for you, Curtis Richardson, that you were able to build your house over there on the south side. And now everybody else wants a place to stay too. And I hope that you probably going to be out of here in 2 weeks.
You know what?
But
I'm still mad about the dope vote. I know everybody wants me to move on and they're like, Bruce, let it go. I thought it was ridiculous, man. And for those who don't know, that was when they, we had some money set aside for infrastructure and improving the community that we took from taxes locally. And I think we had a certain amount, and they gave like the extreme majority of it to Florida State University to build their stadium. Mm-hmm. And we argued about it. People came out. We told them don't do it. Some people who were for it, commissioners like Rick Minor, for example, said, I thought it might have been a good idea, but I saw overwhelming community input saying don't do it. So he made the community decision. Other people, they decided to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And, that's just another example of the type of leadership Curtis has brought to the city of Tallahassee. And it's problematic to me. It
is an example of the haywire issue that we have at City Hall right now. And even with the county as well. Because when we talk about, the dope vote, that's with the county too. That's with Blueprint. And I don't know why I say Curtis is one that I've heard this from. Maybe Diane has said similar things, but try to distance themselves from Blueprint like that's some other, agency or organization that's making these decisions. Like they're not the ones sitting, like they are Blueprint. Like they take off their city commissioner hat and then they put on the Blueprint hat. And they are the board. And so these issues that come out of that, like dope, like the airport gateway and stuff like that, which, I've been frequently going to the airport this past year. And I'm just looking at the construction of this. And I was like, where are the people that are coming in and out of Tallahassee for all of this? Yeah. I'm like, is this so unnecessary? So many millions and millions and millions of tax dollars. FSU got what would equate to $27 million.
Yeah.
The airport gateway stuff is at how many 100 million now? Like, imagine what we could have done with that. Like, we could have completely redone, downtown and midtown and where I live closer to where the old Tallahassee Mall is. I think it's called the Center now. Like, we could have built so much infrastructure there, but now over there at the Tallahassee Mall, all we got is concrete and gas stations. Yeah. And now FSU ain't winning no games. Ain't nobody going to these games.
They'll be back one day.
Mark it here. Mark it here. At the end of November is FSU's homecoming. And this is the first time that in a couple of years, since Doak, the Doak vote at least, that there hasn't been like a FSU and FAMU game, like homecoming or games happening at the same time. We are going to see, next week is FAMU homecoming. At the end of November is FSU homecoming. We are going to see how jumping is the city next week versus how jumping the city is at FSU homecoming, and see if FSU's stadium, just the stadium, was worth almost $30 million.
Yeah.
Versus housing people, versus feeding people, versus having these conversations about what could the county do about reparations. Like, this is what we could have done.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things we could have done, particularly around investing crime, mitigating a lot of the issues. And I think we could go on for that for hours. I think another issue I have with Curtis is I think just in his position, I thought he should have did a better job at protecting our city attorney, Cassandra Jackson, when that whole ordeal went down. He refuses to be critical of other people in the city or the city management. And I think I heard people, they wanted to fire the city manager. I don't think Curtis needed to say that, but I think at a certain point you do have to step out and say, hey, as an appointed leader and representative of my community, I can't stand by while y'all make certain comments, while y'all impose certain practices. It's not right. And Curtis refuses to do that. And it's kind of like he becomes, again, what appears to many people in the community is kind of like a rubber stamp for what the some people would say the shadow government in Tallahassee wants to accomplish. And it's time for a change. It's nothing personal against him. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't have any ill will towards Curtis. I just think he's been here long enough. We need to make changes in our commission so that we can get things done, because I mean, climate change is here. Hyperinflation is here. Things are getting ready to change, and it's time for leadership that is going to be willing to adjust and take a hard look and say, okay, Tallahassee's doing some things wrong and we need to fix it. Curtis seems to just be like, hey, everything's great all the time. I live on the south side. Nothing needs to change. We got this. And I can't ride with that.
Like, let's even throw in the Railroad Square stuff that's happening right now.
But we skipped over something. I want to hear from you on this, Serenity. As a black woman, when we saw what happened to our city attorney, Cassandra Jackson, like how did you feel? Like, I guess let's explain what went down there. What was wrong there?
Okay. So if you don't know, we did have a city attorney. Her name was Cassandra Jackson, and she resigned from her position about a year, coming on 2 years ago. Will be 2 years in a couple of months. And it was a very, I think, tragic situation, because just like Steve Stewart, Cassandra Jackson, a black woman, very intelligent woman, knows her stuff, does what she do, was being taught, her intelligence was being talked about, her, her ability to do her job. The people, I think we have it on the screen right now. It says that Wayne Tedder, one of the assistant city managers, again, the city of Tallahassee has like a million city managers. Unfortunately, she lacks the credentials, knowledge, and experience with the issues to make a positive contribution to this level of work. That's Cassandra bonkers. Jackson, an attorney, has worked as an attorney for a long time, has been the city attorney here for a few years, doesn't have the credentials, knowledge, or experience with the issues. This city has a problem with attacking black women.
I work with these people. I used to work for the city. I know Wayne. I met Cassandra Jackson. Like, that's crazy for him to say. Like, she's probably one of the most brilliant women I've come across in the city of Tallahassee. So, unfortunately, she lacks the credentials. Are you even?
Again, another example of how black women are constantly, no matter how high you get, whether you are right there, the second, number 2 to being the president of this country, to being a successful attorney, and being a city attorney for a growing city, a city with a large budget, a bunch of issues y'all keep putting this girl through because y'all always getting sued over something. Like, all of this, and yet her intelligence is being attacked, her credentials are being attacked, and it's a shame, to the point where she had to resign. Like, she was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't deserve this. I don't have to deal with this. For Tallahassee, for the likes of these people like Gary Hunter, another a weirdo developer attorney here. I stayed after to tell her how angry I am at her BS. She stands by it because she is completely without a clue on how this process works.
Yeah, and see, that's what happens a lot of times, especially, and I know I hear this from black women all the time, when you push back against injustice, or even when you're just doing your job, you're like, hey, I don't think we could do that. If people want to shirk the process and do things their way, and you say, hey, no, these are the rules, and you try to enforce them, people start to come for your intelligence. They start to come for your integrity. They start to come for your credibility. And that is often what drives black women out of workforces. And we see this in various industries, right? Where black women enter the workforce, and then they kind of have all these experiences with, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a form of racism. It's a form of peer-to-peer, personally mediated racism that people experience. It happens to black women. It happens to women in general as well. But
Curtis didn't come out and say, hey.
Yeah.
And again, and what's so frustrating too is that the commissioners and the mayor especially are supposed to be the leaders and the quote unquote adults in the room. And so if they see that all of their little kitty assistant city managers and, you know, folks that are doing direct business with them, like the other attorney, that developer attorney that was on the screen before, you're supposed to come out here and say, hey, chill out with that. But, you know, they're boosting it. Like, I feel like they like this. They like this pettiness. They're not the adults in the room.
I don't see, from just my personal dealings with Curtis, and there's not been many, but just when we talk, I don't know that he enjoys it, but for him to stay silent, it signals to me that he's not allowed to speak on these kinds of things. Like, there's somebody who's like, nope, you stay out of it. Because I just couldn't see him standing by and watching that happen. And unless my read on Curtis is completely different, and he had no clue or no understanding that what was happening was wrong. And that's hard for me to believe.
Do you know what you just said about him, though? Because the question is either A, he's either a man and stands up for people and doesn't, you know, when he hears injustice, he's a man and he's like not going to let people talk about women, especially a black woman, like that. Or two, which I just heard, is that he's a puppet and he's being strung along and being told to say certain things,
I don't want to believe
not
that
say
about
certain things. So if that's the case, that's exactly why people aren't voting for you, Curtis.
Man,
that's exactly what the city is saying about you, Curtis.
I don't want to believe that about him now. And just like a personal experience I had with Curtis, there was a time I had wrote an op-ed about what I thought was corruption in our electoral process here in the state of Florida. And Curtis had mistaken it and thought that I was attacking him. Actually, I was talking about Scott Maddox, right? So he confronted me about it. He was like, hey, that's wrong. I don't get down like that. How dare you say those things about me? And I was like, nah, brother, it wasn't about you. But just like his conviction, like he would not allow himself to be maligned. He was very strong in his idea that he wasn't going to allow anyone to say anything negative about him. I've seen him have that same passion to defend the city of Tallahassee when people were claiming that there was a cloud over the city of Tallahassee after the whole Maddox debacle. And I saw Curtis get out there and defend the city and go on the attack. So to not see that defense of former city attorney Cassandra Jackson, it was like, yo, what happened here? But I don't want to say that he's controlled, but it's like, what else could it be? When I know this brother's capable, maybe he's just tired of the fight and he doesn't want to do it anymore. But
then
whatever
he should be running.
Whatever the case, exactly. Whatever the case, he just, again, I think it's time for Brother Curtis. You know, he did his part. Maybe it's time for him to move on. Let's get Dot in there, give Dot a chance. And trust me, I'll put it like this. If I start to see the same problems with Dot, I'll be right back here again saying, hey, time for Dot to move on. Let's get somebody else. It will keep going till we find a person who's willing to stick up for the values of the entire Tallahassee, not just the developer community.
I have no problem coming on this show and talking about Matlow. I have no problem coming on this show talking about Porter. I have no problem coming on this show talking about Dot. I have no problem coming on this show talking about the county commission or, you know, anybody. My point is that, and again, to Steve Stewart's point, I was born here. My family's from here. I got a book that go way back. I am more Tallahassee and local Tallahassee than any of y'all. Okay. So I really care about my home. Like, this is my home. I am rooted here. And my beliefs and what I say on this show, again, is my own, because it is my lived experience and my, again, knowledge of reading. And I, if someone is not being a fighter for the people, a fighter for my community, a fighter for equality, a fighter for equity, a fighter for making sure that folks just have a basic, just basic decency and dignity and humanity, I'm going to talk about you.
Facts.
And that's why 2 years ago, when it was Diane's turn, she got it too. Now, Curtis, you getting it too. And if Porter and Matt Lowe piss me off, they gonna get it too. Like, these hands are E for everyone. So, not actual hands, but y'all know what I'm saying. But, I will combat and go militant for my community, however hard I need to go for my community, because, again, I feel a deep connection here. And I deeply believe in everything I say here. Y'all can... No, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for anything that I come on this camera and say. And if I was connected to any of these campaigns, I always say, hey, I'm connected to this campaign in this way. But I don't work on any campaigns. Steve Stewart sat here and said my job on the air. So, like, it wasn't on anybody's campaign. And this is very serious. And I take this very personally, which I said in the last show. Policy is personal. This is my life. This is all of our lives. And we should all care. And especially when people are going on essentially taxpayer-funded radio shows and talking about you. Especially when you got taxpayer-paid employees talking crap about people in text messages. Talking crap about private citizens in text messages. And talking crap about our city attorney in messages. And all of this stuff that we showed here to you on air today.
A lot of people called me. They saw it the last time I was on the show. They said they liked what we were saying, but there were some people in the community who were not happy about some of the stuff that we said, particularly around Curtis Richardson and particularly around the idea or this concept that by spending money to hire more police officers, that's not a solution to a crime problem. So we're going to discuss that again, and hopefully some of our friends on the conservative side of the community who seem to want to talk about this, who seem to be open to facts and research instantly or all of a sudden, we'll see if y'all really feel that strongly about it when we lay it out for you.
I too got a lot of feedback from our show last time. I got a few of my friends and others that I've worked with or whatever throughout the community said that they saw it. Every time I've shown up to something in the past 2 weeks, they're like, "Oh, you're that girl from that video." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." But I did also hear a little bit that there are some folks who weren't that happy about what we said. Now, I don't even know this person, Steve Stewart, for real. And I've just constantly kept getting messages that Steve Stewart's talking about you again. Steve Stewart's talking about you again. And I'm like, who is Steve Stewart? Like, why is he spending so much time talking about me and what I said? But also I'm like, I wasn't on this show alone. You was here too. He hasn't mentioned you not one time.
Hey, I don't know what to say about that. I know Steve Stewart personally. My opinion, Steve is, he's a conservative talk show host. And he goes on the air and he says things to kind of feed his audience. Outside of that, when I talk to him, he's a normal person. He's a normal guy. He's a middle of the road guy. But when he gets on the air, he transforms into this like super ultra conservative. But hey, Steve, I heard some of the stuff you said about Serenity, man. We got to discuss this, bro. You went too far.
Let's just start at the top. Okay.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, let's start at the top. Okay. So again, I've just been getting messages that people have said that Steve has talked about me on his show. Mind you, the last time we did this show was 2 weeks ago. Why am I still hearing that this man is talking about me 2 weeks later about that one video? Like, it feels like old news at this point, but let's see a couple of clips. We've put together a couple of clips of him just mentioning my name and things about me, and we're going to talk about it on the other side. So let's start with this one.
If you look at these other cities, some of these other progressive cities, They don't want law enforcement in schools. And we just talked about the value of the resource officer program in our schools. I would love to get Serenity Williams, who is the, quote, leader of the Young Democrats and who likes to opine on these issues in a very uneducated way. I've never seen a study that connected more police officers to reduction in crime. Well, you don't read then because they're there. If you look at these other cities, some of these other progressive...
Pause. Stop right there. Now, I'm not the type of person to sit here and go point by point to try to like disprove someone, because if you really wanted to look into the statistics about policing and crime in schools and police officers in schools, etc., you will see what we said on the show is accurate. And it's unfortunate that I, as the Black woman of this show, have to sit here and defend my my intellect and my knowledge, because again, Bruce was on the show too, and Bruce was the one that really brought up some of that stuff that he's talking about. And again, like, I have 2 degrees. I read a lot. I love to read. If you know me and you've known me growing up, you know that I'm a reader. And even better than a reader, I'm a Googler.
Let me say something here, right? I think I understand what Steve was trying to get at, but ultimately what he was trying to do is tie you and tie what we said to Dot's campaign and said, this is Dot's policy, as a way to kind of shock any people in the middle who are leaning between Dot and Curtis to say, oh, Dot is, they like to call us like defund the police and all that stuff. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? And first of all, I'm not a member, nor, I don't know if you are, we're not paid by Dot's campaign in any way. And other than that, the whole point I was trying to make about police stations and increasing police presence is that it's not a solution. It's a reactionary. Police presence can make people safer in the immediate, when the police are right there around. In some circumstances, in other circumstances it won't. But ultimately, if you have a crime problem in your community, your solution cannot be, let's hire more police officers. It's not going to stop your crime problem. It's going to allow you to arrest criminals, but it's not going to stop the production, the manufacturing of more criminals. So we have to get to root problems. And I think Steve knows this. Steve's intelligent. I know that he knows this. So he intentionally left that out to kind of weaponize it against Dot. And I definitely think the people at the Dot Emmett Johnson campaign should feel some kind of way about that. They should definitely take Steve on for this, because he's trying to use us as a bridge to attack them. Not cool.
Yeah, not cool to try to use me to attack anybody, because all views on this show are my own. That's why it's, my show. And I don't get paid by any campaign. I don't work for a campaign. And he even sat here and tried to say where I work, and I guess try to dox me in that way, or try to bring that to the forefront of what I do. He did not say the Dot Emmett Johnson campaign. So he's sounding a little unintelligent by trying to make some illogical connections between me and the Dot campaign. The only connection between me and the Dot campaign is that we both live in Tallahassee. And it's not right that he's, again, spending our tax money to talk about me on his show.
Wait, he's spending tax money?
He gets money from the city to do this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like, he's getting paid by the city, the county, Blueprint, to like do advertisements and stuff on his show.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Point is that he's being paid, and how he makes his show, he uses our money to make his show. I mean, I'm going to do advertisements for you, but I'm going to use your money to produce my stuff. Like, I'm going to use your money to do what I do so you can get views on your ad. And he's using our money to attack me, and only me, and for that episode. And it's just, again, this is the same man who's hiring, like, doesn't somebody work for him that is some sort of like Confederate apologist, tries to, there was something I saw, maybe the folks in the studio could pull this up real quick, but there's this guy that works for Steve Stewart that is like a Confederate, like, I love the Confederacy, we need to go back to the Confederacy, like, dude. You got them type of people in this establishment.
No, Steve wouldn't hire somebody like that.
We'll take a second. We'll have the studio pull it up. But
a Klan member, like a Confederate flag, wants to put us back in chains kind of guy?
I mean, he putting on the whole, like, he like puts on the whole suit and armor. He wants us. Listen.
Would you have Steve on this show ever? Would you allow him to come on?
If Steve wants to come on this show, Steve, you can come on. If you want to talk about me so bad, come on the show, Steve. You will give you Bruce's seat.
All right. You can have my seat, Steve. You come defend this. All right. Prior to being hired, Holcomb wrote frequent op-eds on far-right websites and social media posts arguing that non-Christians should not be able to participate in the American democratic institutions, that the Confederate States of America were not traitors, and that immigration is ruining Anglo-Saxon, or what he describes as old stock American traditions. Who is this guy?
The dude that works for Steve Stewart and Tallahassee Reports.
Yeah, that's, man, wow. Steve will address this. I'm sure he has an explanation of some sorts, man.
Maybe he's being told to say stuff. I don't know. Like, it just seems very awkward for me.
But I do want to transition. I think we could come back to Steve. Let's talk about Curtis Richardson. And I think someone insinuated that we said Curtis Richardson wasn't black enough. I never said anything of the such. Curtis is a black man. He doesn't have to do anything to justify his blackness to me. What we criticized was Curtis's votes on policies that are important to black people and to his party, the Democratic Party. And we're not trying to, I wasn't trying to kick Curtis out of the party. Somebody might have kicked Curtis out of the party. I was simply saying that he seems to be choosing the wrong side. And then you look at who's supporting Curtis. It's the extreme conservatives at that. Those are the ones who are coming to his defense. You don't see like members of the Democratic Party stepping out saying, no, Curtis has been aligned with us. Look at all these votes that support the party. What we're seeing is Curtis's support now is completely on the other side. I think I saw something. Barney Bishop was supported Curtis Richardson. And people started to bring up, reminding everybody what Barney Bishop was trying to invite the Klan to FAMU or something crazy like that. So
and yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because again, like, I am never the type of person to like question like people's. I called Curtis Richardson black in the episode. I said he sat his black butt there and vote against our stuff. Like, I never said that, and like nobody on this show has ever said that, and we're not the people to be sitting here trying to question people's blackness. Like, we the one drop rule committee. I think it's important that we actually say that there are black people who can carry out white supremacy.
Absolutely.
And if you are a black politician and the votes that you take, the statements that you make, if it continues that narrative and it continues, again, uplifting white supremacy, then you are a black man, but you are a black white supremacist.
Wow.
And, I think that Curtis, again, like, over the past 2 weeks, some of the engagements that he's been doing, some of the debates that he's been doing, I feel like he might even know that the writing is on the wall for him. And it's like, it's not looking good. Steve Stewart sat here and replayed our clip about Curtis Richardson on two of the most popular things right now amongst voters, and it's weed and abortion. And whether Steve thinks that I want to kill babies and smoke pot, like, we can play that clip too. But like, if this is the type of following that you have, I don't understand the type. Like, I don't understand why you want to do it. Play the clip.
But Serenity Williams, in her wisdom, is saying these are the two biggest issues on the Democratic agenda: killing babies and smoking dope.
Oh God.
Just listen to it.
Go listen to it. I mean, all you got to do is listen to his show, and he's going to replay the clip over and over and over again. But that is true, is that abortion, which was put on our ballot by petition, by a popular petition, many people signed a petition to put it on our ballot. Don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but that and weed are the only two actually amendments on our ballot right now that was put on there by the people. The people signed a petition and put those on our ballot. And that means that the people want this. If you look at any popular polling on these two issues, it is on the side of wanting to keep abortion health care and wanting to legalize marijuana for adults. And if Steve thinks that he's, I don't read, maybe he's not the one reading, because I see it. I read it every day. That's a part of my job. But alas, do we have any more clips from this? Because I'm sure.
Before we go to the clip, right? Because they tried to characterize it as if these were not local issues, as if somehow people in Tallahassee are divorced from the issues of the state of Florida, or are divorced from issues across the country or on the planet, right? So these are local issues, and I challenge anyone to prove that they're not. All politics is local, and we again, Steve knows this. The intelligent conservatives know this, but sometimes I sense that there is this class structure in the conservative movement, and there are the intelligent ones who know, and they make the money off of the people who don't know. They take advantage of the uninformed people in their community, and I gotta feel that may be what's going on here, that they're just kind of pandering, but they know better, right? So that's why it's just repeated talking point, crazy progressives, crazy liberals, repeated talking point, they're the enemy, when in actuality we know who is the real people who are extorting this country and taking all the money, but I don't hear them talking about that.
Again, I'm just offended that my intellect keeps being brought into this conversation. I don't think that there was one time that we even attacked anybody for being, ignorant. I don't think we called anybody ignorant. I don't think we called anybody stupid or not smart or doesn't read. We said that all of these people are making calculated decisions.
Yes.
And very, strategic decisions is what they're doing. And these strategic decisions are leading to what we said in the video, is that, we're having an issue here in our city with these 3 city commissioners, Curtis being one of them, up for re-election right now. Yeah,
you were pretty hard on Curtis, though. You tried to kick him out the party.
If you go not be for popular issues in your party, if you're not going to be for popular issues in your party, then that's not your party. Obviously, you have another party that you're wanting to be a part of. Because if you're against trying to legalize marijuana, one, what would that do for, we could talk about black people, but what would that do for people in general? Is that folks won't be getting arrested, being put in the system, being put in financial situations that people are already living paycheck to paycheck. Giving an arrest over this is devastating. You're spending all of this money on a lawyer or on court fees or trying to show up to court or whatever, doing the substance abuse stuff and etc. All of that takes time and money, and you are ruining people's lives over that, and over something that white people make money from. All of these smoke shops and stuff around this city, and the white or maybe other owners are making money from this stuff, while mostly black people, because that's where you're trying to put the police stations, that's where you're trying to put all the police, that's where you're going to see more arrests. You're going to keep trying to arrest more and more of us for stuff that people are making money off of, and that's not right. And then when we're talking about, again, about abortion, women have literally died because they don't have access to this health care. In Georgia, a black woman lost her life because she could not get access to abortion. Where are women who are dying from cancer or can't get cancer treatment because they would have to end their pregnancy, get an abortion, and their state won't let them do it? That is dangerous, and that is dangerous for women everywhere, and especially here in Tallahassee. There's a Tallahassee woman going around right now saying how she's personally affected by this stuff. Yeah. You can't say that this is not this is not a local issue. There's women in Tallahassee, and there are, weed smokers in Tallahassee. Shout out to y'all. And so it's a very local issue. But, again, Steve, my offer is to you. If you want to come on the show, you can do it virtually. We could patch you in. You could come in the studio. Whatever you want to do, Steve. Come on. We could talk, chat it out. Since you only want to talk about me. You don't care about Bruce. and let's just get it on. Like, I'm ready if you're ready.
Don't do it, Steve. It's a trap. She's gonna tear you up, bro.
I'm stupid, so he should
uneducated,
do it easily.
Ignorant. He has some words for you.
Let's watch one more. Let me see. We got one more.
I had to
ready.
watch this 20-minute podcast. It took me a lot to
Pause
get through.
it. I'm sorry.
Pause.
He said he had to watch. You ain't gotta watch nothing, baby. You listen. You decided to watch because you liked what you saw. Okay? You like what you saw. That's why you keep talking about it for 2 weeks. All right, press play.
I had to watch this 20-minute podcast. It took me a lot to get through because it is just full of misinformation and just goofiness. And we'll talk about that afterwards. But the part I want you to listen to is regards law enforcement. And this is Serenity Williams, who is the president of the Young Democrats. She's a progressive and doesn't appear to be very bright on the issues either.
I'm not very bright on the issues.
The attacks on your intelligence because you disagree. And it's like people, like if we were to do this to him or anybody does this, like, you know, this is detracted from the civility in the discussion, right? We could have differences of opinion and both of us could be intelligent people. So I don't know. I hope y'all do have some dialogue because I would like to see him kind of defend that to you. But I don't know that anything would come of it. But yeah, I really don't like that. I think that's lowbrow. I don't think it has a place in a discussion to go after a woman's intelligence because you disagree with her. If you actually disagree.
I mean, he could have went on to say, like, what exactly was it that was disagreeable with what I said, or like what he thought I said was incorrect or quote unquote unintelligent, whatever. But no, he just like personally attacked me.
When it gets to that point where people are just spewing hate or people are just spewing nonsense or just being anti-intellectual, just combative, I find that brings the whole situation down. It just devolves the situation to the point where it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. But if we want to have real dialogue, then it's like you got to bring your facts, not attacks on the person, attack the argument. That's what I always try to tell people to do. But this is where we are in 2024, man. And ever since it didn't start with Donald Trump, but it just seems like since Trump came into the picture after the Tea Party movement, it's just like that is the new norm for how we do politics now.
Yeah, everybody wants to be just as rude and disgusting as Donald Trump, and because they think it gets them more clicks and views. And you know, if that's what you need to do to get clicks and views on your decently, I guess, is that the word you use?
Yeah, I'm trying to be respectful here, but I mean, he took some real shots at you. I think y'all gotta have a conversation.
We have to at this point. The question to all of you is, again, I do not choose candidates based off of who I think is going to save me. I choose candidates on who is going to do the most for, or who can I organize and push to do what I need them to do. And at the top of the ticket, Trump showed us in 2016 all the way through 2020 as him as president, is that he's not going to be swayed by the people in organizing and people telling him, hey, we don't want you doing these things.
That part.
Curtis, down here at the bottom in Tallahassee, there's so many people that came out for Railroad Square. So many people came out against Doak. So many people coming out against Somo Walls. So many people coming out against the police station. So many people coming out against the airport gateway. And yet they continue to do this stuff. And if you are not beholden to what the people are telling you when they organize and tell you this is what we want, you don't deserve that seat. And that's just period. Like all this personality stuff with Steve Stewart and going back and forth with, you know, on these shows, all of that don't mean nothing. First of all, ain't nobody seeing that. So that's not what I care about. What people see is that they heard all these people coming out here saying that we don't want money to all of those things that I just mentioned. And these people still did it. And we are going to see on Tuesday what that actually means. But, you know, do you have any other closing words to
I think you said it all, sis. Like, I just want to echo what you said. I want to summarize that. If you're not voting for the people when you're on the dais, don't ask the people to vote for you when it's time for the election.
That's just that. Well, folks, shouldn't even say nothing after that.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank y'all so much for watching. And we'll probably come back. I'm sure Steve will say something else about us, but that just comes with the fame, like Megan Thee Stallion said. But y'all have a good night.
Peace, y'all.